Hello and welcome to the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm your host, Amy Ravel. It is great to be with you. I'm hoping that over the last few weeks, as you're listening along, you have been decluttering in your own home. In the southern hemisphere, which is where I am located, we're heading into warmer weather, and so lots of people are starting to get a bit excited. The rains are slowing down, the cold weather is lifting, and so people are out in their garages and doing hard rubbish collections and just generally decluttering and having that fresh spring feeling as they move into this next season. So I hope wherever you are in the world, you too are being able to, tackle some of those decluttering jobs, maybe that you thought at the start of the year that you would do, and it's like now October, November, and you're thinking, oh yeah, I probably should get around to doing that. If you're needing a little bit of encouragement in your decluttering, you guys know that our Facebook community is a thriving and active place with lots of declutterers in there. So just come and join. To search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook. Today, I want to talk to you about limiting choice. And I was conscious as I was kind of thinking about this topic that choice is somewhat of a privilege because choice means you have options. And not everybody has options in parts of their lives. And so I just want to kind of lay that as a foundation that there's an assumption that I'm making. And it's an intentional assumption because I think most of the people who are decluttering because they have too much, are too busy, their calendars are too full, they've got too much on their minds. So there's an abundance or there's an overload. And generally, if there's an overload, you have choice. And so the topic I want to explore today is, when does limiting choice actually bring greater freedom? I find that choice can be quite crippling if I'm already got a lot of things in my head. So, I'm a creature of habit. When I was in high school, I had the same lunch every single day. I had a Vegemite sandwich every day for my entire schooling because I didn't want to have to make decisions, because I want to save up my decisions for the things that matter. And so maybe that is part of my neurodiversity, is that I'm okay with having the same thing over and over. But it certainly was out of a choice rather than a fear of change. It's out of going, okay, well, I have a limited amount of capacity, a limited amount of decisions in a day. What am I going to use those on, and what can I remove the decision about? So I want to talk to you about kind of creating boundaries or creating limitations on yourself, which will then give you freedom from decision-making, dilemmas, the brain space of having to weigh up decisions over things that don't really need a decision made. Or you can create a framework that you overlay on your decisions. And so rather than making the same decision over and over and over again, you kind of make a decision and your default is to go with the decision that you've pre-made, and then you have the freedom to change it if you want. I think about it often in terms of clothing, that people with more clothes take longer to get ready and feel like they have less to wear than people that have a limited choice in what they can put on in the morning. If I take my pajamas, for example, I probably have, I would guess I've got 5 pajama tops and maybe 4 pajama bottoms. But what I do is there's no choice required. They're all the same category. So all of the pants are a cotton pant, that's a 3/4 pant, and all of the tops are singlet tops. And I wear that to bed summer, winter, spring, hot, cold. I wear exactly the same thing. And I don't want to have to make a decision. And when I purchase, and when I do purchase, so say I wear through some and get hole in or whatever, and I have to replace, what I also do is make sure that I replace with exactly the same. So it doesn't have to be the same brand, but I want a pair of 3/4 loose pants and a singlet top. And just because I can, I just have them all in the same kind of color palette. So oranges, pinks, and grays is kind of my bedtime color palette, as much as I can say that. But it means that every top and every bottom goes together. So I don't have to kind of find, the top that goes with that or the bottom that goes with that. It is just, I don't ever have to make a decision about what to put on at night. I just have to grab pajamas. And so there are lots and lots of ways in my life that I have limited my choice by pre-making choices as much as possible. So think about I'm going to give you a couple of examples of my own, but I also want you to think really creative about your own home. So I never decide what brand of toilet paper to buy. And the way that I have resolved that, and I never even have to decide if I need to buy toilet paper. I have a toilet paper subscription with Who Gives a Crap, and that has limited my choice and reduced my scope of choice because they send it out according to the subscription frequency that I've pre-decided. So it turns up and I don't have to make a decision about what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy. I've made that decision and now it just comes. I've got these decisions about some of our charity giving as a family. So rather than having to make decisions every time somebody different wants to ask you for money, we've picked our places that we give to, and I have a regular scheduled giving set up. So it's not a subscription model where they take it out of our account, but we have it so that it's just set up every month. And we've got one that we do every week and it just goes out and I don't have to think about it. I've made the choice that that's something that I value, that as a family we want to invest in, but I don't have to keep making a choice every week. That decision is made. And it also means that when somebody's like, oh, can you give to this charity and this is the, sign up for monthly this, I can really confidently say, thank you, we have our charities that we support and we're happy with that. I don't have to make another choice. When I'm working with young families, so often when we reduce the quantity of toys available, say, to preschoolers, the reduced quantity, so less choice, limiting choice, actually makes them more engaged with the toys that they do have, makes them happier, makes them more engaged with what they're doing. So we're not saying you don't have any choice, child, you must play with this one toy, but we're reducing the overwhelm of choice, and limiting that choice actually brings greater freedom. And for adults, I see it in areas like crafting. So many of my clients are massive crafters, but they move from one craft activity to the next in terms of it might be I'm making earrings and then I'm doing picture framing and then I'm doing LED lighting and then I'm doing, a paper craft. And so you have all the supplies for all the things. But when you're feeling in a crafty mood, you look in your store, your craft area, you don't know where to start because you're overwhelmed with decision. So could you move to a place where you have 2 or 3 craft activities? So you're limiting your choice, but that is bringing greater creativity and greater freedom. So there's some of you probably that are like, I'm going to turn off the podcast, Amy, if you tell me to limit my craft choices. So I'll move on to the next thing. One of my experiences is I find like menus, those pages and pages of menu when you're like, just tell me the 5 best things that you cook and let me just pick one of those. So I find that limiting choice actually brings me greater freedom because I'm not worried that I've missed something that I would enjoy more. I'm not spending, 10, 15 minutes of an occasion going out to enjoy someone's company trying to decide what meal to have. And so I think that there's so many instances in life when limiting choice allows you to be efficient, but it allows you to also be confident in the decision you're making because you've already set the parameters. You've already kind of cut off the things that are outside the choices that you want to have, which I think is just so, so helpful. Let's go to a quick break and I'm going to come back and give you some more examples of ways that you can give yourself limited choice, but greater freedom. I'll be back in just a second. Alrighty, so, we're thinking limiting choice, greater freedom. So what if you're doing meal planning? So if you're doing meal planning, you're probably not writing down 50 options of meals that you could cook over the next week. You're probably writing down 5 or 6, maybe 7, because limiting your choice is actually giving you the greater freedom. So when it comes to cooking or when it comes to shopping, you actually know what you want to go and get. You're not making the decision over and over and over again or having to refine your decisions every time. Think of it in with handbags. So I've often, said I have one handbag, and so I never have to decide which handbag to take. I've now opulently increased that to two. So one is a big one that can fit my laptop in and is also suitable to kind of take on the plane as carry-on. And then my other handbag is a little over body handbag, and it's tiny. So it doesn't even fit a full bottle of water in it. And that's perfect if I'm just quickly nicking out and just need a couple of things. But by having just two handbags, I never have to make a choice beyond big or small as to which handbag I take out or I wear or I use. Whereas many of my clients are making the decision between 15 or 20 handbags. And even if you're usually using the same one or two and you find you're a creature of habit, really you're still having to decide all the time, oh, should I use that one? Oh, no, I'll stick with the one I'm using. And you've got this abundant range of choice, but it's not giving you greater freedom. You're spending much more time deciding. You're spending mental capacity deciding. You're spending space using things that you're not choosing time and time again, but you're still keeping. I've had to think about some options that might seem so weird, but might make life a little easier. So what if you're a gift card giver, so if you're writing cards to people a lot, what if you just found one place to buy cards from? And maybe you purchased 20 at a time, and then when you ran out, you just reordered another 20. So you never had to choose to go to a shop and pick the right card. What if you just got some blank cards from a designer that you love, maybe a local designer, and you use those for every single occasion? And they're different. So you might be choosing, do I want to send the one with the beach photo or the flower photo? But you're not having to go out to a shop and pick between 50 different types of cards. What if, I've spoken before about my legging choices. I love a good legging, but I only keep like full length and 3/4 length leggings, and I never have to make a decision because they're just the same. So if I'm going to work, the decision is 3/4 or full length. I don't have to decide, do I want the ones with the pocket? Do I want the ones with a stripe across this way? So I'm reducing my choice to give me greater freedom. It gives me greater freedom of time because I'm not constantly having to, spend time deciding. It gives me freedom in my finances because I'm not having so many options and having to buy things because I want more and more and more option. And it also makes my home better because I've got less stuff and it's not as cluttered, and I can shift and pivot quickly. So, oh my goodness, we've just come home from one thing and quickly we need to get changed and go to the next. I don't have to sift through 15 dresses. I own about 3 dresses, and so I just pick one. And, it's a bit like having a capsule wardrobe is about limiting the choice, actually giving you more freedom, that you're more likely to put on an outfit that you look great in because you've been intentional about what you've kept and how you're going to use it. And so, really, I want you to have a think in your life. How can you limit your choice that would bring greater freedom? Just one more example that has popped into my mind is for children. A lot of families have lots of different lunchboxes. What if you limited the choice to just one lunchbox for your child? And so in the mornings, you weren't having to decide which lunchbox to use as well as what to put in the lunchbox. It's just the one lunchbox. And so you pick it out and you put whatever it is that you want into the lunchbox. That's limiting the choice and bringing greater freedom because you're not then having those arguments. Like at childcare, they say, do you want the pink bowl or the blue bowl? They don't say, which bowl would you like? Limiting the choice brings a greater freedom. I'd love you to let me know if there's other topics like this that you would like me to delve into in a podcast episode. And always, if you've got a guest that you would like me to interview, please jump into your email, send me a DM on Instagram, get in contact with me and let me know, because I love coming up with podcast topic episodes, and I love it even more when you guys help me because limiting choice brings greater freedom. So if you guys send me 3 topics, I don't have to decide from 100 topics in my head. I just pick from the 3 that you send me. So I hope that is helpful. As always, please come and connect over on the socials. Make sure you follow on Instagram, The Art of Decluttering. you'll see I've got some pretty fun reels that are going up there lately. So make sure you don't miss out on that. Come over and follow. And until next week, enjoy the freedom. I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land this podcast is recorded on. I would also like to pay respects to their elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love you to rate and review the show on your podcast app. That will help others to find the Art of Decluttering podcast as well. If you'd like any more information, you can visit theartofdecluttering.com.au, and I would love to see you in my Facebook group. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook and join today. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day and enjoy the freedom.